Marcus was standing in my living room, arms crossed, when I came down the stairs that Saturday morning. The way he positioned himself, blocking the archway to the kitchen, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't going to be a conversation. This was an ambush. I tightened my grip on the stair railing. 65 years old, and I still woke up with the same routine, checking the knot of my bathrobe, making sure I looked presentable even at home. Old habits from my contracting days, I suppose. Always be ready for an inspection. He didn't say good morning. That should have been my first clue. Let me back up. I need to tell you how we got here, to this moment. With my sister's son staring me down in the house I built with my own hands 40 years ago. It started 18 months ago. Marcus called me out of the blue on a Tuesday evening. I was surprised to hear from him because we hadn't spoken in nearly 3 years. Not since his mother, my younger sister Linda, passed away from cancer. The funeral had been awkward. He'd been distant, didn't return my calls afterward when I tried to check in on him. Life goes on, I figured. People grieve differently. But there he was on the phone, voice cracking, saying he'd lost his job at the tech startup in Minneapolis. Budget cuts, he said. The company went under. He and his girlfriend Brittany needed a place to stay, just temporarily, while they got back on their feet. 2 months, maximum. 3 if the job search took longer than expected. I lived alone in this 3-bedroom lakefront house in Brainerd, Minnesota. The place was too big for one person, honestly. My wife Sarah died 7 years ago. Heart attack. Completely unexpected. Our daughter Emily lived in Seattle with her husband and 2 kids. She visited twice a year, Christmas and summer. The rest of the time, the house echoed. So I said yes. Of course I said yes. He was family. Linda would have wanted me to help her son. Marcus and Brittany arrived on a Friday with a U-Haul trailer. I helped them unload, and I remember thinking they had a lot of stuff for people who were only staying 2 months. Boxes of kitchen equipment, a gaming setup that took up half the guest room, Brittany's entire wardrobe that filled 2 closets. But I didn't say anything. Young people accumulate things, I told myself. The first month was fine, pleasant, even. Marcus would cook dinner sometimes, these elaborate meals he'd learned from YouTube. Brittany worked remotely for some marketing company, spent her days on video calls in the sunroom. I'd hear her laughing, talking about campaigns and metrics. They seemed busy, productive, getting back on their feet, just like Marcus had promised. I gave them space. The house sat on 2 acres with a private dock on Gull Lake. I'd spend my mornings in my workshop out back, the one I built the year after I retired from my contracting business. Afternoons, I'd take my fishing boat out. Evenings, we'd all have dinner together. Mostly civil conversation about the weather, the news, Marcus's job applications. Month 2 arrived. Then month 3. I didn't bring it up right away. I understood the job market was tough. Marcus said he was getting interviews, making it to second rounds, but nothing was panning out. Brittany's remote position was temporary. She mentioned one night over dinner, contract work, ending soon. They needed just a little more time. I extended the deadline in my head. 3 more months. They'd be out by month 6, surely. Month 4 was when things started shifting. Small things at first. Marcus began sleeping until noon. The job applications seemed to stop. When I'd ask how the search was going, he'd get defensive, say the market was impossible, that he was overqualified for most positions and underqualified for the rest. Brittany stopped working entirely. Her contract ended, and she didn't seem to be looking for another one. They started treating the house differently, less like guests, more like residents. Brittany rearranged the living room furniture without asking, said it had better feng shui. Marcus took over the garage, set up a home gym with equipment he ordered online. When I mentioned I used that space for my woodworking projects, he said I could move my stuff to the shed outside. It would be better organized there anyway, he said. I moved my tools to the shed. I told myself it was temporary. They'd be gone soon. Month 5. Month 6. Month 7. The conversations about them leaving stopped happening. Whenever I'd gently bring up timelines, Marcus would change the subject or leave the room. Brittany would give me this sympathetic look, like I was the one being unreasonable for asking about their plans. My daughter Emily called me one Sunday in month 8. We video chatted, and she could see into the living room behind me. She noticed the changes immediately. "Dad, did you redecorate?" she asked, her face scrunched up on the screen. "Marcus and Brittany made some adjustments," I said carefully. "Adjustments?" She leaned closer to her camera. "That's not even the same couch. Where's Mom's furniture?" I glanced behind me. She was right. Brittany had convinced me to let her donate Sarah's old couch to Goodwill. It was worn out anyway, she'd said. This new sectional she found on Facebook Marketplace was more practical, more modern. I'd agreed because it seemed easier than arguing. "It's in storage," I lied. I didn't want to worry Emily. "Dad." Her voice got that tone, the one she'd used since she was a teenager when she knew I wasn't telling her something. "How long are they staying?" "Just until they get back on their feet." "It's been 8 months. The job market is tough right now." Emily stared at me through the screen. "You need to give them a deadline. A real one." "I will. Soon." But I didn't. Because every time I worked up the courage to have that conversation, I'd think about Linda, about the promise I made to her when she was dying. Tubes in her arms, morphine drip keeping the worst of the pain at bay. "Take care of Marcus," she'd whispered. "He's sensitive. He needs family." I'd held her hand and promised I would. And now, asking Marcus to leave felt like breaking that promise. Month 9 brought a new development. Marcus started talking about improvements to the house. The deck needed refinishing, he said. The kitchen could use an update. Modern appliances, new countertops. He had ideas, could draw up plans. We could make this place really shine. "We?" I asked. "Well, yeah," he said, like it was obvious. "Brittany and I are living here too. We should have input." I told him I wasn't interested in renovations right now. The house was fine as it was. He got quiet after that, but I could feel the tension. It hung in the air like humidity before a storm. Month 10. I started noticing mail addressed to Marcus and Brittany. Not forwarded mail from their old apartment. New mail, bills from local services, magazine subscriptions. A change of address confirmation from the post office. They'd officially made this their residence. When I confronted Marcus about it, he shrugged. "We need a stable address for job applications," he said. "Looks better than saying we're between places." "But you're not between places. This is my place. You're staying here temporarily." "Right, temporarily." But the way he said it, with that slight emphasis, made it sound like a joke, like the word had lost all meaning. Month 11. Brittany started inviting people over without asking. Friends of hers from the cities would drive up for the weekend, use the guest room, the one that had been my home office, before they arrived. They'd drink on the deck, blast music across the lake, leave beer cans floating in the water near my dock. When I asked Brittany to keep the parties smaller, she looked at me like I'd suggested something absurd. "It's just a few friends," she said. "We're young. We're supposed to have fun." "It's my house," I said quietly. "We live here too, Robert." First time she'd dropped the mister before my name. Just Robert now, like we were roommates. Month 12. A full year. Marcus sat me down one evening after dinner. Brittany stood behind him, arms folded. They had something to discuss, he said. Something important. They wanted to contribute to the household, Marcus explained. They felt bad about staying rent-free for so long, so they'd come up with a proposal. They'd start paying me rent. Not market rate, of course, because they were family, but something fair. $300 a month for both of them, utilities included. I stared at him. $300 for a lakefront property. The place was worth $500,000 easy, more with the development boom happening on Gull Lake. Rent for a place like this would be $3,000 minimum, probably more during tourist season. "I don't want rent," I said. "I want to know when you're planning to leave." Marcus's expression changed. Hardened. "We're trying to do the right thing here, Uncle Robert. We're offering to pay our way." "I didn't ask you to pay your way. I asked you to stay temporarily. It's been a year. And we appreciate your patience," Brittany chimed in. "But the reality is, we're not in a financial position to move out yet. We need more time. The rent we're offering shows we're serious about being responsible tenants. Tenants? The word came out sharper than I intended. You're not tenants. You're guests. Guests who were supposed to leave 11 months ago. Marcus stood up. Maybe we should talk about this when everyone's calmer. They walked away. Up the stairs. To the master bedroom. My bedroom. The one they'd moved into in month 7 because, Brittany had explained, the guest room was too small for both of them and all their things. I'd relocated to the smaller bedroom at the end of the hall, the one that used to be Emily's, because again, it seemed easier than fighting about it. I sat alone in the living room, in the house I built, feeling like a guest in my own home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Emily's old room, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling from when she was 9 years old, and I realized something. They weren't planning to leave. Ever. This wasn't temporary to them anymore. This was their house now. They'd simply decided that. The next morning, I called Emily. "Dad, it's 5 a.m. here," she groaned. "I need to know about property rights," I said. "If someone lives in your house for a year, can they claim any ownership?" Silence. Then, "Dad, what's going on?" I told her everything. The whole year, compressed into a 20-minute confession. She listened without interrupting, which was how I knew she was furious. Emily only got quiet when she was really angry. "Pack a bag," she said when I finished. "You're coming to Seattle. Today. I can't just leave. This is my house." "Exactly. It's your house. And you need a lawyer. I'm booking you a flight. Be at the airport in 3 hours." I spent a week in Seattle. Emily's husband, Tom, was a real estate attorney. Not in Minnesota, but he had colleagues who were. We video called with a lawyer named Patricia Chen, who specialized in property disputes. She asked me detailed questions about the situation, took notes, then leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Patterson," she said, "you're in what we call an adverse possession risk situation." What does that mean? It means if your nephew and his girlfriend continue living there openly, paying even minimal rent, treating it as their primary residence, and you don't take action to remove them, they could eventually claim squatters' rights. Minnesota law requires 15 years of continuous occupation, but the fact that they're family complicates things. They could argue you gave them an implied license to remain indefinitely. A judge might see their rent offer as establishing a legitimate tenancy. My hands went cold. So they could take my house? Not easily, but they could make removing them very difficult and expensive, especially since you haven't established a formal lease with an end date or given them any written notice to vacate. Right now, they're month-to-month tenants at best, guests at worst. But the longer they stay, the stronger their position becomes. What do I do? You need to give them formal written notice to vacate. In Minnesota, if there's no lease agreement, you can terminate a month-to-month tenancy with 1 month's notice. After that, if they don't leave, you file for eviction. But Mr. Patterson, I have to warn you, evictions involving family members can get ugly. They can drag out for months. And there's always the possibility they could countersue, claim elder abuse, financial exploitation, all sorts of things to complicate the process. Emily, sitting next to me, spoke up. "What if he sells the house? Can he do that with them still in it?" Patricia paused. "Technically, yes. He's the legal owner. He can sell to whomever he wants. But most buyers won't touch a property with unwanted occupants. You'd have to sell to an investor who's willing to deal with the eviction process. You'd lose money, probably a lot of it." I flew back to Minnesota with a folder full of documents. Patricia had drafted a formal notice to vacate. 1 month. Marcus and Brittany had 30 days to leave my house. I pulled into the driveway on a Monday afternoon. Marcus's car was gone. Brittany's was in the garage, my garage, where my workshop used to be. I walked inside. Brittany was in the kitchen, making coffee. She smiled at me like everything was normal. "Robert, you're back. How was Seattle? We need to talk." Her smile faded. "Okay." I put the folder on the counter, opened it, slid the notice to vacate across to her. She read it. Her face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, anger. "You're evicting us? I'm asking you to leave. You were supposed to be here temporarily. It's been over a year. We offered to pay rent. I don't want rent. I want my house back. She shook her head. This is insane. We're family. You can't just kick us out. I gave you a year to get on your feet. You had a year. The economy is bad right now. You know how hard it is out there. That's not my problem, Brittany. Her voice rose. Not your problem? We're people, Robert. We have nowhere to go. You've had 12 months to figure that out. She grabbed the notice, crumpled it, threw it at me. Marcus was right about you. You're a selfish old man. You have this huge house, all this space, and you won't even let family stay here. Your sister would be ashamed of you. That line hit exactly where she wanted it to hit. Don't talk about Linda. Why not? She was Marcus's mother. She'd want you to help him, and instead, you're throwing him out on the street. I gave you a month. That's more than fair. A month? Where are we supposed to find an apartment in a month? Do you know how much security deposits cost? I picked up the crumpled notice. You should have thought about that a year ago. Marcus came home an hour later. Brittany had clearly called him. He burst through the door, face red, waving his own copy of the notice that Patricia had insisted I give to both of them separately. What the hell is this? I was in my shed, trying to reclaim some of my workshop space. I stood up from the workbench, faced him. It's a notice to vacate. You have 30 days. Are you serious right now? You're actually doing this? You've been here over a year, Marcus. That was never the plan. Plans change. Life happens. I thought you understood that. I do understand. But this is still my house. He stepped closer. I could smell beer on his breath. He'd been drinking already, and it was barely 3 in the afternoon. Your house, he sneered. You keep saying that like it means something. You're one old man living alone in a massive property. You don't even use half these rooms. But God forbid you share it with family. I shared it for 12 months. We're not strangers off the street. I'm your nephew, your sister's son, which is why I let you stay this long. Let us stay? Let us? His voice rose to a shout. We've been maintaining this place. Brittany cleaned it top to bottom. I mowed the lawn, fixed the garbage disposal, painted the deck. We've been taking care of this house while you hide in your shed. I didn't ask you to do any of that, because you're too proud to admit you needed help. This place was falling apart when we got here. That wasn't true. I kept the house in good condition, always had. But I could see there was no point arguing with him. He'd rewritten history in his head, made himself the hero of a story where I was the villain. You have 30 days, I repeated. Marcus got in my face, close enough that I took a step back. We're not leaving. Excuse me? You heard me? We're not leaving. You want us out? You'll have to evict us. And good luck with that. You know how long evictions take in Minnesota, especially during winter? We'll be here until spring at least. Maybe longer. And the whole time, we won't pay you a dime. How do you like that? He walked away, left me standing in my shed, heart pounding, hands shaking. I called Patricia that night. He's right, she said quietly. If they refuse to leave after the 30 days, you'll have to file for eviction. With the court backlog and the fact that it's family, you're looking at 3 to 6 months minimum, maybe longer. So they can just stay here against my will? Until the court orders them out, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Patterson. The system is designed to protect tenants, even ones who have overstayed their welcome. Your best option is to convince them to leave voluntarily. Maybe offer them money to go. Offer them money? It's called cash for keys. You pay them to vacate, usually a few $1,000s. It's often cheaper and faster than eviction. I hung up feeling defeated. 3 to 6 months more of Marcus and Brittany. 3 to 6 months of feeling like an intruder in my own home. That Saturday morning was when Marcus cornered me on the stairs. I came down in my bathrobe, and there he was, blocking the kitchen. We need to talk, he said. Not asked, stated. I tightened my grip on the stair railing. About what? About what happens next. Brittany and I have been discussing it, and we think we've found a solution that works for everyone. What solution? We stay. You move into the guest room permanently. We take over the master. We'll pay you $400 a month, and in exchange, we get to make some improvements to the property. Updates that increase the value. When you eventually pass away, the house goes to me. That's what Mom would have wanted anyway. I stared at him. The audacity of it hit me like a physical force. When I pass away, you're 65, Uncle Robert. You've got to think about the future, about legacy. Mom always said I should inherit something. This way, it's clean. No fighting over wills. We all benefit. Get out. What? Get out of my house. Today. Right now. Pack your things and leave. His expression darkened. You can't kick us out without going through the legal process. I talked to a lawyer, too. I don't care what your lawyer said. This is my house. You're not taking it from me. We're not taking anything. We're offering you a fair deal. Fair? You want me to move into the smallest bedroom of my own house and wait to die so you can inherit it? That's not how I meant it. That's exactly how you meant it. And the answer is no. Pack your things. Today, Brittany appeared at the top of the stairs, phone in hand, recording. Are you threatening us, Robert? Are you trying to illegally evict us? I looked up at her, at the camera pointed at me, and something in me snapped. Not anger exactly, something colder, clearer. I'm not threatening anyone, I said calmly. I'm going for a drive. I got dressed, got in my truck, and drove. I didn't know where I was going until I ended up at Gene Halverson's office. Gene had been my business partner back in my contracting days, 30 years ago. We'd built half the custom homes in the Brainerd Lakes area before we both retired. He'd gone into real estate development after that, made a fortune buying lakefront properties and flipping them. Gene looked up from his desk when I walked in. Robert Patterson, haven't seen you in 6 months. What brings you by? I sat down in the chair across from him. I want to sell my house. His eyebrows rose. The Gull Lake property? You love that place. I did. Now I just want out. What happened? I told him. The whole story. Gene listened, nodding occasionally, and when I finished, he leaned back in his chair. You've got yourself a situation there. But I'll tell you something. Your timing couldn't be better. What do you mean? There's a development company out of Minneapolis that's been buying up lakefront properties on Gull. They're planning a high-end resort complex. Private cabins, marina, the works. They've been offering 20% over market value for properties that fit their footprint. Yours would fit perfectly. My heart started beating faster. 20% over market? That's 600 grand easy, maybe more, with the acreage. But there's a catch. They want immediate occupancy. They're buying properties as is, but they need them vacant within 60 days for demolition to start. I can't guarantee vacant. Gene studied me. You could if you moved fast. Sell to them, take the money, and let them deal with your nephew. Development companies have lawyers specifically for clearing out unwanted occupants. They're not afraid of a drawn-out fight. It was perfect. Almost too perfect. There's something else, Gene said. Once you sell, where will you go? I haven't thought that far ahead. I might have something for you. Remember that cabin my brother built up near Cross Lake? The one bedroom on the small lake? He's looking to rent it out long-term. It's quiet, private, a fraction of the size of your place. Might be exactly what you need for a fresh start. I sat there processing. Sell the house I built 40 years ago. The house where I raised Emily, where Sarah died, where every room held memories. Give it up to some developer who'd tear it down and build condos for wealthy tourists. But it wouldn't be mine anymore anyway. Marcus and Brittany had already taken it from me. At least this way, I'd be the one making the choice. Set up a meeting with the development company, I said. As soon as possible. 3 days later, I sat in a conference room with 2 representatives from Gull Lake Resorts, LLC. They had spreadsheets, surveys, architect renderings. They'd already assessed my property. $620,000, cash offer, as-is sale, 60-day closing. What about the occupants? One of them asked. I'm in the process of removing them, I said. Good, because we'll need full possession at closing. Our legal team will handle any stragglers, but it's cleaner if the property is vacant when we take the deed. I signed the preliminary agreement that afternoon. The sale would be confidential until closing. I had 60 days to get Marcus and Brittany out, one way or another. That night, I called Emily. Dad, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. That house is your whole history. The house is just wood and nails, sweetheart. It stopped being home the moment Marcus told me I'd be living there until I died so he could inherit it. I heard her sigh. Okay, if this is what you want, I support you. But promise me something. What? Don't tell them about the sale until you're ready. The element of surprise is the only advantage you have. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing. I emptied my workshop, took everything to Jean's brother's cabin in Cross Lake. I packed up Sarah's belongings, the ones I'd kept in storage, the photo albums, Emily's childhood things. I moved it all quietly, load by load, while Marcus and Brittany were out. The dining room table, the one Sarah and I bought on our anniversary trip to Door County. I sold it to an antique dealer. The quilts Sarah's mother made, shipped to Emily in Seattle. My father's war medals, my mother's china, the grandfather clock that had been in my family for 3 generations. Everything with value, everything with meaning. I moved out of that house. Marcus noticed after about a week. "Where's all your stuff going?" he asked one evening. "Storage," I said. "Decluttering." He shrugged. "About time." This place was way too crowded. I smiled and didn't correct him. The 30-day notice period expired. Marcus and Brittany didn't leave. I expected that. What I didn't expect was what came next. Marcus cornered me in the kitchen on day 32. "Brittany and I have been talking to our lawyer. He says we might have a case for adverse possession. It's been a year. You need 15. But we've been paying rent. We have receipts." He waved papers at me. "We've been Venmoing you $400 a month. You just haven't been accepting it. But we have proof we tried. That establishes us as legal tenants." I looked at the papers. Sure enough, there were screenshots of Venmo requests, $400, sent to my account monthly, all marked declined. I'd been declining them because I didn't want their money, but apparently that didn't matter. Our lawyer says that counts as an attempt to establish a legitimate tenancy agreement. Combined with the improvements we've made, the length of time we've been here, and the fact that you're family, he thinks we have a strong case if you try to evict us. "So you're not leaving?" "We're not leaving," he confirmed. "This is our home now, Uncle Robert. The sooner you accept that, the better off we'll all be." He walked away. I stood there, gripping the counter, and thought, 60 days. I just need 60 more days. The closing date arrived on a Tuesday in November. Cold morning, frost on the ground, the lake starting to freeze at the edges. I got up early, dressed in my good suit, the one I wore to Sarah's funeral. I made coffee. Marcus and Brittany were still asleep. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Simple, clean, the house has been sold. Closing is today at 2 p.m. You need to be out by 5 p.m. The new owners will take possession at that time. If you're still here, their legal team will remove you. I'm sorry it came to this. I didn't sign it. I just left it there, propped against the coffee maker where they'd see it. I drove to Jean's office. The closing took 3 hours. Papers to sign, accounts to settle, keys to hand over. The representatives from Gull Lake Resorts were professional, efficient. They brought a cashier's check. $620,000. "The property is now ours," the lead representative said. "Our team will do a walkthrough at 5. If your nephew and his girlfriend are still there, we have a removal service on standby." "They'll probably still be there," I said. "We expected that. We've dealt with squatters before. It's not pleasant, but it's part of the business." I left Jean's office at 4:30, drove to the Cross Lake cabin. It was small, 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, wood stove for heat. Jean's brother had furnished it with basics. Couch, table, bed, nothing fancy. But it was mine, rented, but mine for as long as I wanted it. I made myself dinner, soup from a can, crackers. I ate slowly, checking my phone every few minutes. At 6:15, Jean texted me. "It's done. They're out. Property is secured." I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know how Marcus and Brittany reacted, what they said, whether they cried or fought or raged. It was over. That's all that mattered. Emily called that night. "Dad," Marcus called me. "He's furious." I expected that. He says you stole his home. He's talking about suing you. He can try. The house was mine. I sold it. He was never on the deed. He's saying you betrayed family. That Grandma Linda would be ashamed. That one hurt. I sat down on the couch, suddenly tired. Your Grandma Linda died 6 years ago. She never met Brittany. She never saw Marcus become this person. I kept my promise to her. I helped him. For 12 months, I helped him. But there's a difference between helping someone and letting them destroy you. I know, Dad. I know. I'm proud of you. I just wanted to warn you that he's angry. Let him be angry. He'll get over it. Or he won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. That winter was quiet. I spent it in the cabin, learning how to live small again. I joined a woodworking group in Brainerd, older guys like me, who met twice a week in a community shop. We built birdhouses, carved decoys, restored old furniture. It was good to work with my hands again, to create things without anyone asking me for permission to use my space. I started going to a diner in Cross Lake, Emily's place. It was called No Relation to My Daughter, just a coincidence, but it made me smile every time I saw the sign. The waitress there was a woman named Carol, about my age, retired teacher. She had short gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes. We started talking one morning when she noticed I was reading a book about fly fishing. My late husband loved fly fishing, she said. He tried to teach me once. I was terrible at it. It takes practice, I said. Everything worthwhile does. We talked for an hour that day. The next week, I came back and we talked again. By December, I was stopping at Emily's place 3 times a week. By January, Carol and I went to a movie together. By February, we were taking drives around the frozen lakes, talking about our lives, our losses, the strange path that had brought us both here. You sold your house, she said one afternoon, and it wasn't a question. I did. Do you regret it? I thought about it, really thought. No, I regret what led to it. But the house itself? No. It was just a building. I was holding on to it because I thought I was supposed to. Because Sarah and I built it together. Because Emily grew up there. But Sarah's gone. Emily has her own life. I was living in a museum of my past. The sale forced me to stop doing that. Carol nodded. When my husband died, I stayed in our house for 5 years. All his things exactly where he left them. His reading glasses on the nightstand. His jacket on the hook by the door. One day, my daughter came to visit and said, "Mom, you're living with a ghost." She was right. So I sold the house, moved to an apartment, started over. Best decision I ever made. Do you ever miss it? The house? No. Him? Every day. But missing someone and living in the past are different things. We sat in comfortable silence after that, watching the snow fall over the frozen lake. Marcus never called me, neither did Brittany. I heard through Jean that they'd moved to Minneapolis, were living with Brittany's parents. I felt a small pang of guilt about that, but it passed. They'd had 12 months to make a plan, to save money, to find jobs. They'd chosen not to. That wasn't on me. I did call Marcus once, in March. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, weighing whether it was worth the effort. Finally, I decided I needed to say my piece, whether he wanted to hear it or not. He answered on the 4th ring. "What do you want?" "I want to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You kicked us out and sold the house. Pretty straightforward. You were never supposed to stay forever, Marcus. That was never the deal. Plans change. Plans change when both parties agree to it. You changed the plan unilaterally. You decided that house was yours. You never asked me. You just took it. Silence. Then you had room. You didn't need all that space. It wasn't about need. It was about ownership. It was my house. I built it. I earned it. And you tried to take it from me. I was family. Being family doesn't entitle you to everything I have. Your mother knew that. She never asked me for anything she hadn't earned. She would have been horrified by what you did. Don't talk about her like you knew her better than I did. I'm not. But I knew her long enough to know she valued independence, self-sufficiency. She worked 2 jobs to put herself through college because she didn't want to rely on anyone. She would have told you to do the same. More silence. I could hear breathing on the other end, but he didn't hang up. I'm not calling to make you feel bad, I continued. I'm calling because because you're Linda's son, and that still means something to me. I don't want us to stay angry forever, but I need you to understand. What you did was wrong. You know it was wrong, and until you can admit that, we can't move forward. He hung up. I expected that too. Spring came, the ice melted off the lakes. Carol and I started taking the fishing boat out, the one I'd kept from the sale. We weren't very good at catching it, but we enjoyed being on the water. The quiet, the sun, the simple pleasure of casting a line and not caring if anything bit. One afternoon in May, Emily called. Dad, I have news. Good news. I hope. Marcus called me. He wants to apologize to you. I almost dropped the phone. He what? He called me yesterday. Said he's been in therapy. His therapist helped him understand some things about his behavior. He's not ready to call you yet, but he wanted me to know he's working on it. He asked if you'd be willing to talk to him eventually. I sat down. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. He's not ready. I just wanted you to know. Did he say what his therapist helped him understand? He said he was angry about Mom dying. That he blamed you for not being there enough for him after she passed. And that when you let him stay in the house, he saw it as you finally giving him what he deserved. When you took it away, it felt like rejection all over again. I closed my eyes. I tried to be there after Linda died. He wouldn't return my promise. I know that. That's what grief does sometimes. It makes us irrational. He's starting to see that now. It doesn't excuse what he did, but maybe it explains it. Maybe. So if he calls someday, will you talk to him? I thought about Linda. About the promise I made to her. About what she would want. Yes, I said. When he's ready, I'll talk to him. Marcus hasn't called yet. It's been over a year since the sale. Maybe he will someday. Maybe he won't. I've made peace with either outcome. The cabin feels like home now. Carol and I have dinner together twice a week. Emily and her family came to visit in July. Stayed at a resort down the road. Spent the days with me. My grandkids loved the small lake. Said it was better for swimming than golf because there weren't as many boats. Are you happy, Dad? Emily asked me one evening while we were grilling on the cabin's tiny deck. I looked around. The cabin, the lake, the simple life I built here. Carol was inside, teaching my grandkids how to make her famous brownies. I could hear them laughing through the window. Yeah, I said. I really am. No regrets? About the house? No. About everything else? Some. I wish I'd set boundaries sooner with Marcus. I wish I'd been clearer about expectations. But I can't change that now. I can only move forward. That's very mature of you. I smiled. 66 years old. I should hope I've learned something about maturity by now. She hugged me. I'm proud of you. Mom would be too. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the deck alone. The stars were brilliant, the air clear and cool. The lake was glass smooth, reflecting the moon. I thought about the 40 years I'd spent in the house on Gull Lake, and the year I'd spent here. Both were good chapters. One just had to end so the other could begin. I don't know what comes next. Maybe Marcus will call. Maybe we'll reconcile. Maybe Carol and I will become something more than friends who fish together. Maybe I'll live in this cabin for the next 20 years, growing old slowly, contentedly, surrounded by people who respect my space and my choices. Or maybe something else entirely will happen. Life has a way of surprising you. But whatever comes, I know this. I made the right choice. I stood up for myself. I reclaimed my life. And in doing so, I found something I'd lost somewhere along the way. I found peace. And that, more than any house, more than any family obligation, more than any promise to the dead, is what matters most. If you enjoyed this story, I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel. And if you've ever dealt with entitled family members, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. Sometimes it helps to know we're not alone in these struggles. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, it's never too late to start over.